The small room was quiet. Too quiet. Outside, the colony lights flickered weakly in the cold night wind. But inside, only one sound filled the air. The soft sound of an alien mother's breathing mixed with the faint crack of a broken toy in her hands. She sat on a wooden chair, her back bent, her long arms trembling. Her skin, pale and marked by the hard life of the colony, glowed faintly under the single lamp. In her hands lay a small toy ship, once bright, now cracked in two. Sparks came from the broken wires. The glow faded and the mother lowered her head. Tears slid down her cheeks, silent but heavy. The toy was not just a toy. It was the last gift her daughter had received from her father before he vanished. The father, a human man, had left long ago and never returned. The toy carried his memory, his love, and his promise. Now, in her shaking hands, even that small promise seemed gone. Her daughter, a little child with wide eyes, stood near the bed. She clutched a thin blanket and whispered, "Mama, is it gone?" The mother looked at her, trying to smile, but the smile broke before it reached her lips. "Yes, little star, it is broken," she said in a low voice. The child's eyes filled with tears, but she bit her lip, staying quiet. She had learned too early that her mother's heart was already heavy. The mother pressed the toy to her chest, her tears falling faster. She whispered to herself, "I cannot fix it, not anymore." Every word cut her deeper. She had fixed walls, clothes, and tools, but this toy was different. It was human-made, strange and filled with tiny parts she could not understand. Without it, her daughter would lose her father's voice forever. Yes, the toy could play a voice, a hidden message, a laugh, a memory. Now that sound was gone, lost inside dead circuits. She rose from the chair and moved to the small window. From there she could see the streets of the colony, empty and cold. Shadows of alien workers walked by, but none looked up. They did not care about her pain. She was already an outsider among them. They had whispered for years, blaming her for marrying a human. Humans bring only trouble, they said. Now she wondered if they had been right. But then she looked at her daughter, small and fragile, lying on the bed. The girl closed her eyes, pretending to sleep, but her tiny hands shook. She hugged the blanket tighter, waiting for comfort that never came. The mother's heart broke again. She could carry the hunger, the cold, and the loneliness. But seeing her daughter cry over a broken toy was too much. It was like watching hope itself shatter. Her mind went back to the day the father had given the toy. He had smiled, tired but warm, his human hands dirty from work. He placed the toy in the child's hands and said, "This will keep you safe, little one." The child had laughed, the toy glowing with a soft hum. That laugh still echoed in the mother's memory. But the father had gone on a journey soon after, and the days stretched into years. No message, no letter, no return. Only the toy had stayed. Like a candle in endless darkness, now the candle was out. The mother sank to her knees, her tears falling on the broken toy. Her long fingers tried to push the pieces together, but they slipped apart. Every spark felt like a reminder of her weakness. She whispered again, "I cannot fix it. I cannot fix anything." The wind outside grew louder, rattling the old walls. The lamp above flickered, shadows stretched across the room. The toy lay still in her hands, its glow completely gone. The daughter stirred in her bed, her voice small, "Mama, please don't cry." The mother forced herself to smile, wiping her tears, but her eyes burned, her chest felt heavy. For a moment, she thought of throwing the toy away. Maybe it would hurt less if it was gone. But no, she could not. It was more than metal and wires. It was the last thread of her missing love. Even broken, she could not let it go. She stood again, clutching the toy tight. The cold window glass pressed against her forehead as she whispered into the night, "If only someone could help. If only someone knew how to fix this." But no answer came. Only the silent hum of machines in the colony streets. The mother closed her eyes, drowning in fear, not knowing that soon A stranger would hear her unspoken wish, not knowing that help was already closer than she thought. And so the night stretched on, heavy with silence. The alien mother, alone with her daughter and a broken toy, stood at the edge of despair. The sparks had died, the glow was gone, but a new story was about to begin. Morning came slowly on the colony world. The weak sun rose, but its light could not wash away the shadows inside the alien mother's small home. She opened her tired eyes and sat up. The broken toy still clutched against her chest. She had not slept much, but there was no time for rest. Another long day of work and survival had begun. Her daughter stirred beside her, yawning softly. The child's small hands reached out, searching for the toy, but finding only silence. The mother kissed her forehead and whispered, "Sleep a little more, little star." The child nodded, her eyelids heavy, but the emptiness of the missing toy hung in the air. It was like a wound that refused to close. The mother stepped outside, the cold dust of the colony stinging her feet. The streets were already busy with workers, machines groaning, and market stalls opening. Voices echoed, deals shouted, coins clinking. But when she walked past, the voices lowered, the stares followed. Some turned their faces away. Others whispered just loud enough for her to hear. "There goes the one who married a human." One alien muttered, "A curse upon her house." Another spat. The mother kept walking, her shoulders straight, though her heart sank with every word. She had learned long ago that no one in the colony truly welcomed her. Her love for a human had marked her as different, and now, without him, she was weaker than ever. At the market, she set up her small stall. It was nothing more than a wooden table with patch tools and old clothes she had repaired. Her hands were skilled, but the pay was little. Few trusted her work, even fewer wanted to help her. Still, she worked in silence, her fingers quick, her face calm. Inside, though, her thoughts circled around the broken toy waiting at home. How could she fix it? How could she protect her daughter's hope? A group of children passed by the stall laughing. They carried bright new toys, shining with energy and color. Her daughter watched from the corner, her wide eyes filled with quiet envy. But she said nothing, only held her mother's hand tighter. The mother felt the grip, strong yet small, and her chest ached. Her daughter deserved more than scraps, more than whispers. But this was all she could give. Work stretched into long hours. She traded coins for bread, cloth, and a little medicine. Every coin mattered. Every choice was a sacrifice. If she bought food, she could not buy fuel. If she bought fuel, she could not buy tools. Every decision was a knife against her heart. By evening, the streets were filled with the smell of cooked meals from other homes. She walked past them, holding her daughter's hand, carrying a small bag with only bread inside. The girl looked up, smiling anyway. "Mama, this is enough," she said. The mother forced a smile, but tears burned behind her eyes. Her child's kindness only deepened the pain of poverty. Inside their home, the lamp flickered again. She set the bread on the table and broke it into small pieces. Her daughter ate slowly, saving every crumb. The mother pretended to eat too, though she only chewed air. She wanted her child to have more, even if it meant going hungry herself. When the meal was done, the girl pulled a small blanket around her shoulders. She asked in a quiet voice, "Mama, do you think he will ever come back?" The question froze the mother. Her lips trembled, her heart screamed with grief, but she could not let her daughter see the truth. She stroked her hair and whispered, "One day, little star. One day." But in her heart the answer was silence. Later, when her daughter slept, the mother pulled out the broken toy again. She turned it over and over, her hands trembling. She tried with every tool she had, but the wires slipped, the circuits sparked. Nothing worked. Finally, she let the toy fall onto the table, her face buried in her hands. She whispered, "I cannot do this alone." Her mind wandered to the colony's workshops. There were skilled mechanics there, but they charged too much. Even if she begged, they would laugh. No one wanted to help the alien woman with human troubles, and so her world shrank smaller and smaller, a circle of pain, hunger, whispers, and broken hope. Yet something inside her refused to break completely. She looked again at her sleeping daughter, her small chest rising and falling with peace. The girl was her light, her reason to keep fighting. If she gave up now, the child would be lost too. So the mother clenched her fists and whispered to herself, "I will find a way. I must." Outside, the night returned, colder than the last. The wind howled between the empty buildings, carrying dust across the streets. Far away in the docking bay, a strange ship had landed, a ship belonging to someone the mother had never met. A human mechanic, tired and worn, stepped onto the colony ground, unnoticed by most, ignored by many. But fate was already moving, and soon, the path of the alien mother and the mechanic would cross. The colony docks were always noisy, full of engines, smoke, and shouting traders. But this time, something different stirred in the air. A small ship drifted in, scarred with burn marks, its engines coughing as if ready to die. It looked nothing, like the sleek alien vessels around it. This one was rough, patched together, and clearly old. The other dock workers laughed when they saw it land. "Whose scrap is this?" One alien mocked. Another shook his head. Only a fool would fly such junk. From the ship's hatch stepped a man, a human, tall but tired, his clothes covered in grease, his boots heavy with dust. He carried no weapon, only a heavy toolbox, slung across his shoulder. His hair was messy, his face marked with scars from years of hard work. He looked around the docks with calm eyes, as if he had seen places far worse. The aliens stared at him, some with curiosity, most with dislike. Humans were rare here, and never welcome. Still, he walked forward, slow but steady, ignoring their whispers. His name was not yet known to the colony, but his trade was simple. He was a mechanic, one who could fix what others threw away. Engines, wires, ships, toys. It did not matter. He had spent years wandering from system to system, fixing for food, fixing for shelter, fixing because it was the only skill that kept him alive. In the market, the mother was still at her stall. Her daughter sat quietly by her side, staring at the broken toy she held. The glow was gone, but she kept it close, as if holding it could keep her father's memory alive. The mother's eyes were heavy, her hands numb from work. And then she noticed the human walking slowly through the market. The crowd parted slightly, not out of respect but out of scorn. Whispers rose again, the same words she had heard before. "Human trash," someone said. "Keep him away," another hissed. The mechanic ignored them all. His eyes moved from stall to stall, searching for work, searching for something worth fixing. When his gaze fell on the mother, it stopped. He saw the broken toy in her hands, and something inside him shifted. He recognized the design, the wiring, the shape. It was not just a toy, it was human-made. He could tell even from across the market. He walked closer, his boots echoing against the stone floor. The mother tensed, pulling her daughter close. She had lived long enough to know that strangers often brought trouble, and humans brought the worst trouble of all. "Stay away," she muttered under her breath. But the mechanic only raised his hand slightly, showing he meant no harm. "May I see it?" he asked gently, his voice calm but deep. The mother narrowed her eyes, her grip on the toy tightening. "Why would you care?" she asked, her tone sharp. The man gave a small shrug. "Because it was built by hands like mine." The market fell silent around them. The aliens leaned closer, eager to see what would happen. Some expected a fight, others expected humiliation, but the mechanic's calmness confused them. He was not begging, not shouting, not afraid. He was simply waiting. The daughter tugged her mother's sleeve, her small voice breaking the silence. "Mama, maybe he can help." The mother looked down at her, torn between fear and hope. Her heart screamed not to trust a human, but her daughter's eyes pleaded for a chance. Finally, with shaking hands, she extended the toy. "Fine," she said softly, "but if you break it more, you answer to me." The mechanic gave a small nod and took it carefully. His fingers were rough, but they moved with surprising gentleness. He turned the toy over, his eyes studying every crack, every wire. "Yes," he whispered almost to himself. "I know. This work. The mother frowned. Can you fix it? The mechanic paused, his gaze lingering on a small panel at the back. There is more to this toy than you think, he said quietly. Her heart skipped a beat, fear mixing with curiosity. What do you mean? She asked, her voice low. But before he could answer, a group of aliens stepped forward. Enough, one shouted. We don't need your kind here. The crowd murmured in agreement, their voices rising. The mechanic stayed calm, not moving, not afraid. The mother felt her chest tighten, caught between the angry crowd and the strange human. The daughter clutched her mother's arm, whispering, Please, Mama, don't let them take it. The mother's breath shook, her instincts screaming to run. But when she looked at the mechanic, she saw something strange in his eyes. Not arrogance, not cruelty, but quiet determination. He was not here to mock her, not here to steal. He was here for the toy, and perhaps for more. And though she did not know why, a spark of hope flickered inside her heart. The mechanic handed the toy back, but his words stayed heavy in the air. If you want it fixed, come find me at the docks, he said. Then he turned, walking calmly through the angry crowd. The aliens muttered curses, but none touched him. They only watched as he disappeared into the shadows of the streets. The mother held the toy close, her hands shaking. She could still hear his voice, steady and certain. There is more to this toy than you think. That night she sat awake, staring at the broken toy on the table. Her mind spun with questions. Who was this man, this human who claimed to know its secret? Why had he come here, and why now, and most of all, could she trust him? The colony was cruel, humans were hated, and she was already alone. But the thought of hope, even dangerous hope, burned in her chest. And so, as the stars shimmered above the colony, the mother whispered to herself, Maybe, just maybe. The night passed slowly, but the mother did not sleep. Her daughter rested beside her, soft breaths rising and falling. Yet the mother's eyes stayed on the broken toy, its dark shell reflecting the flicker of the weak lamp. Her mind kept circling back to the stranger's words, There is more to this toy than you think. Why would a human say that? Why would he care? The memory of his calm eyes unsettled her. He had looked at the toy like it was not just metal, but something alive. By morning she made her choice. Fear pressed on her chest, but hope whispered louder. She wrapped the toy in cloth and told her daughter, Stay inside today, little star. The child frowned. Where are you going, Mama? The mother forced a smile. To see if a promise can be mended. She kissed her forehead and stepped into the cold streets. The docks were crowded again, voices shouting, engines roaring. But she walked with steady steps, her heart beating fast. The stares followed her. The whispers cut her ears. She's going to him. One alien muttered. Foolish woman. Another sneered. Still she did not stop. At the far corner of the docks, she found his ship. The human was bent over an engine, tools scattered, grease covering his arms. He worked with silent focus, ignoring the jeers of passers-by. When he saw her, he wiped his hands and straightened. You came, he said simply. The mother tightened her grip on the toy. I should not be here, she whispered. The mechanic nodded. I know. He motioned to a small crate. Sit, if you like. She hesitated, then sat, her hands trembling. Slowly she unwrapped the toy and placed it between them. The mechanic's eyes softened as he looked at it. Again, he picked it up carefully, turning it in his hands. Yes, I was right, he murmured. The mother leaned closer. What do you mean? The man pressed a hidden latch at the back, one she had never noticed. The toy clicked softly, a panel sliding open. Inside was a small crystal chip, faint but glowing. The mother gasped. I never saw that. The mechanic gave a small nod. You weren't meant to. This toy isn't just for play, he explained. It was built to carry something more, something personal. Her heart pounded, her breath quick. Can you fix it? The man studied the wires, his brow furrowing. It will take time, he said, but yes, I can bring it back. her eyes filled with tears. If you can do that, my daughter will smile again. But the mechanic's gaze stayed on the chip. There's something else, he said slowly. This crystal may hold a message. The mother froze, her whole body tense. A message, she whispered. From who? The mechanic looked at her with calm certainty. From the one who gave it. Her heart nearly stopped. Her husband's face flashed in her mind, his tired smile, his warm voice. Could it be true? Could his voice still live inside the toy? Tears blurred her vision. Please, she said, her voice breaking. Please show me. The mechanic set the toy on his workbench, his fingers moving with precision. He connected wires, adjusted circuits, and whispered under his breath. The mother watched every movement, fear and hope battling. Inside her, finally, he pressed a small switch. The toy flickered, its lights weak but alive. A sound crackled, broken but clear. A voice, faint, familiar, human. If you are hearing this, it began, before cutting off. The mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her tears fell fast, her chest trembling. That voice, it's him, she whispered. The mechanic gave a small nod. It's damaged, but the message is there. I can restore it fully, he continued, but it will take time and parts I don't yet have. The mother wiped her tears, her voice shaking. Do whatever it takes. The mechanic studied her face, seeing the storm of pain and hope within her. I will, he promised. But you should know, if this message is real, it means your husband planned something. Something bigger. Her breath caught, confusion and fear mixing. What do you mean? The mechanic lowered his voice. Humans don't build toys like this for no reason. This was hidden, meant to be found only when needed. The mother's mind spun, the weight of his words crushing her. Could it be her husband was still alive, or had he left this as a final farewell? Either answer burned her heart. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken thoughts. The mother looked at the mechanic, his hand still resting on the toy. Why was he helping? Why did he care? He had no reason, no gain. And yet, his calm eyes showed no deceit, only purpose. Finally, she whispered, Why are you doing this? The mechanic paused, then answered quietly, Because once I lost something too, and no one helped me. The words struck her like a blade. She saw the pain in his eyes, hidden but real. For the first time, she felt a strange connection, two souls carrying broken pieces trying to hold them together. He pushed the toy gently toward her. Take it for now, he said. I'll gather what I need and finish the work. She clutched it to her chest, her tears falling again. Thank you, she whispered. The mechanic only nodded, turning back to his tools, but in his silence she sensed a promise, not just to fix a toy, but to mend something greater. As she walked back through the market, the whispers returned, yet for the first time she did not hear them. Her mind held only the faint echo of her husband's voice, and the steady words of the human mechanic. There's more to this toy than you think. The toy lay on the small wooden table, glowing. Faintly for the first time in months, the room felt alive. The alien mother sat close, her hands pressed against the surface, her heart beating fast. Her daughter sat beside her, wide-eyed, her tiny fingers brushing the toy as if it might vanish. Both of them waited, their breaths caught in silence. The mechanic adjusted the wires again, his face calm but focused. He leaned closer, his rough hands surprisingly steady. There, he murmured. I think it's ready to speak again. The mother's chest tightened, her whole body trembling. Please, she whispered, let it work. The mechanic pressed a small switch. The toy shuddered, its lights blinking, and then a sound cracked through the air. Static at first, broken and rough, but then came a voice, faint yet clear. If you are hearing this, it means I am far away. The mother gasped, her tears falling instantly. Her daughter's mouth opened, her eyes shining with shock. That's him, she cried. That's Papa. The voice continued, fragile but strong. I built this, for you, little one, so my voice could always reach you. The child clutched her mother's arm, tears rolling down her cheeks. Mama, he's talking to me, she sobbed. The mother's lips trembled, she could not speak. Her heart ached with both joy and pain. Hearing his voice was like opening an old wound, yet also like touching sunlight again. The message flickered, then returned. I cannot tell you everything now, but I left this hidden for a reason. There are people who would not understand, who would not want you to know. The mechanic leaned forward, his brow furrowing. He muttered under his breath, "This is not just a message of love. This is something more." The mother looked at him, confused and frightened. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice weak. The mechanic nodded toward the toy. "Listen carefully," he said. The voice played again. "If you find the right hands, they will unlock what I placed inside. Not just my words, but something that may guide you back to me." The mother froze, her tears blurring her sight. Her daughter gasped, "Mama, does that mean he's alive?" The mother's heart twisted, hope and fear clashing like storms. She wanted to believe, wanted to shout yes, but she could not. Not yet. The toy went silent for a moment, then whispered the final line. "Trust only those who carry both strength and kindness. They will help you." Then the light faded, the voice gone. The toy grew quiet again, resting in the mother's trembling hands. The room felt heavy with silence. The mother stared at the mechanic, her lips parting. "You heard it too?" He nodded, his expression hard. "Yes," he said, and he was right. "There's more inside this toy than a memory." The mother's voice shook. "Do you think he is still alive?" The mechanic looked away, his jaw tight. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I do know this. Your husband was no ordinary man." The mother's mind swirled, questions burning like fire. What had her husband been hiding? Why had he built such a toy? And why had he trusted a stranger, a human mechanic, to unlock it? The mechanic studied the circuits again. "This chip, it carries more than sound," he explained. "There may be maps, codes, something he left for you." Her breath caught. "Maps? Codes? Why?" The mechanic shook his head. "I don't know yet, but I will find out." Her daughter looked up at her, hope shining in her small eyes. "Mama, Papa's still out there, I know it." The mother hugged her tightly, her tears wetting the child's hair. "Yes, little star," she whispered. "Maybe he is." The mechanic stood, his toolbox in hand. "I will need stronger tools. Better parts," he said. "But I promise I will bring out everything this toy holds." The mother looked at him, fear mixing with gratitude. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why are you helping me?" The mechanic's eyes darkened, his voice low. "Because I've seen too many promises broken," he said. "And I don't want this to be another." He left the house, his boots heavy against the dust outside. The mother watched him go, her heart torn. Was he truly someone she could trust? Or was she leading herself into more pain? But when she looked down at her daughter holding the toy like it was treasure, she knew she had no choice. For the first time in years, hope had returned to their home, and she would follow it no matter the cost. That night, the mother sat by the window. The stars shone faintly above the colony. She pressed the toy to her chest, whispering to the silence, "If you're out there, we will find you." The daughter slept peacefully, a small smile on her face. The mother closed her eyes, clinging to that fragile hope. But far away, in the shadows of the galaxy, forces were already moving. And soon, this broken toy would lead them all into a story much greater than they imagined. The colony night was quiet, but the mechanic's workshop was alive with sparks. Inside the dim space, wires lay across the table, tools clicked, and small lights blinked faintly. The toy sat in the center, its glow weak but steady, as if waiting for its secrets to be pulled free. The mechanic leaned close, his eyes sharp, his hands moving with practiced care. Every sound of the circuit spoke to him. Every spark carried a story. The mother stood nearby, her daughter asleep on her lap. She had carried the child with her, unwilling to leave her behind. Her eyes never left the toy, her heart caught between hope and fear. "What do you see?" she asked softly. The mechanic did not answer at once. He twisted a small wire, adjusted a chip, then nodded. "There is more here than just a message," he said, his voice calm but heavy. The mother leaned forward. "What do you mean?" The mechanic pointed to the crystal chip hidden deep inside. "This isn't just memory storage," he explained. "It holds coordinates, a location, maybe even more." The mother's breath caught, her hands tightening on her daughter. "Coordinates? To where?" she whispered. The mechanic shook his head. "I don't know yet, but I can unlock it." Her heart raced, the weight of his words pressing down on her. If her husband had hidden coordinates, then he had planned for her to find them. But why hide them in a toy? Why leave them only in a child's hands? The mechanic's eyes stayed locked on the toy. "Your husband was careful," he said. "He wanted this secret to survive only if the right person cared enough to keep the toy safe." The mother's throat tightened, her tears burning again. "He knew I would never throw it away," she whispered. The mechanic worked in silence for a moment. The sound of his tools echoed like heartbeats. Finally, the toy's light pulsed brighter. The crystal chip glowed with a soft blue flame, and a faint hologram flickered above the table. It was broken, glitching, but the image was clear enough. A map of stars spread out in the air, distant and strange. The mother gasped, covering her mouth. The mechanic stared, his jaw tightening. "Your husband left you a path," he said. The hologram flickered again, and the voice returned. "If you are seeing this, then you kept faith," the voice said, faint but filled with strength. "Follow these stars, and you may find me." The mother's tears fell, her shoulders shaking. Her daughter stirred in her lap, rubbing her eyes. "Mama, Papa?" the child asked sleepily. The mother hugged her close, whispering, "Yes, little star, it's Papa." The mechanic leaned back, his hands resting on the table. He had seen many machines, many secrets, but this one carried more weight than anything before. He looked at the mother, his voice low. "This is not just about your family," he warned. "Someone else may already know about this. And if they do, they will want it." The mother's chest tightened, fear gripping her. "What are you saying?" she asked. "I'm saying this toy could be dangerous," he answered. "Dangerous to you, to your daughter, to anyone who carries it." The mother shook her head, holding her daughter tighter. "No, it's just a toy. It's just his voice." But deep inside she knew the truth. This was never just a toy. It was a key, a guide, maybe even a weapon. And now it was in her hands. The mechanic placed a hand on the table, steady and firm. "I can help you," he said. "But you must decide. Do you want me to unlock all of it, even if it means danger?" The mother's eyes filled with fear, but behind it burned something stronger. She looked at her daughter, whose small eyes now sparkled with hope. She thought of the years of hunger, of whispers, of loneliness. She thought of the man she had loved, whose voice had returned to her through this broken toy, and she whispered, "Yes, whatever it takes." The mechanic nodded once, his face serious. "Then we will finish this," he said, "but you must be ready. Once we uncover the truth, nothing will stay the same." The mother swallowed hard, her heart heavy. "I have lived with pain for years," she whispered. "But if this brings me closer to him, I will face anything." The hologram flickered again, the stars glowing brighter. The mechanic wrote notes, tracing the coordinates. He recognized some of the systems, barren and forgotten. Others were unknown even to him. Hidden far in the galaxy, whoever had left this map had walked paths few dared to walk. He glanced at the mother, then at the child. In their faces, he saw the weight of love, of loss and of hope. And in that moment he knew he could not walk away. The night grew deeper. the workshop lit only by the toy's glow. The mother sat still, clutching her daughter close. The mechanic worked quietly. Unlocking piece by piece, every spark revealed more secrets, every flicker carried new danger. Until finally the toy hummed, stronger than before. The voice returned one last time, clearer now. "If you follow this path, you will know the truth." The father's voice said, "But be careful, for others are searching too." The hologram faded, leaving only silence. The mother's tears fell, but her lips curved into a trembling smile. "He's alive," she whispered, as if convincing herself. The mechanic looked at her, his eyes, steady, alive or dead. "We'll know only if we follow." The mother nodded, her grip on the toy firm. Her fear had not vanished, but hope burned brighter than it ever had. That night, as they stepped out of the workshop, the stars above, the colony seemed closer. The mother held the toy against her chest, whispering softly, "We will find you, no matter what it takes." And in the shadows of the market, unseen eyes watched them. The secret of the toy was no longer theirs alone, and the path ahead promised danger as much as it promised hope. The morning light crept slowly into the small home. It painted the walls with pale gold, chasing away the shadows of another long night. The mother sat at the table, the toy before her, its glow stronger now than ever. Her daughter leaned against her side, smiling for the first time in many months. The mechanic worked quietly, tightening the last screws, his eyes steady and focused. "There," he said at last, pushing the toy gently across the table. "It's whole again." The mother reached out with trembling hands, lifting it as if it were a fragile treasure. Her daughter gasped with delight, her small fingers brushing the surface. The toy hummed softly, its lights blinking in rhythm, alive once more. The child pressed a button and the toy spun in the air, floating as it once had. Her laughter filled the room, pure and bright. The sound pierced the mother's heart, not with pain, but with relief. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time they carried joy. She whispered, "Thank you, thank you," her voice breaking. The mechanic gave a small nod, wiping the grease from his hands. "It wasn't easy," he admitted, "but it's more than fixed." The mother looked at him, confusion mixing with gratitude. "What do you mean?" she asked. The mechanic pointed to the crystal chip inside, glowing faintly. "It's not just repaired, it's ready. Your husband left more than a map," he said quietly. "He left instructions, guidance, maybe even warnings." The mother's heart raced, her eyes locked on the toy. The weight of her husband's message pressed down on her. He had known, he had planned, he had trusted her to carry this burden. The daughter hugged the toy, whispering, "Papa is I can feel it." The mother kissed her hair, whispering, "Yes, little star," closer than ever. The mechanic's voice grew firm, breaking the tender silence. "If you follow this, you must be ready," he said. "The path is not safe, and whoever else is searching will not stop." The mother looked at him, fear flashing in her eyes. "But you will help us?" she asked softly. The mechanic met her gaze, his voice steady. "I said I would, and I will." The child looked between them, her small smile full of hope. "Then we'll find him together," she said, her voice innocent but strong. The mother pulled her close, whispering, "Yes, we will." For a moment, the room was filled not with fear, but with quiet strength. Outside, the colony bustled, the voices of traders and workers rising into the air. But for the first time, the whispers against the mother no longer mattered. She held the toy close, the sound of her daughter's laughter echoing in her heart. Hope had returned, fragile, but real. The mechanic packed his tools, slinging the heavy box over his shoulder. He looked around the room once more, his eyes lingering on the mother and her daughter. In them, he saw something he thought he had lost long ago. The power of love, the strength of hope, the fire of a promise. He nodded. Once, as if making a vow to himself, the mother stood, the toy in her hands glowing brighter with every passing second. She felt the weight of it, but also the warmth, It was no longer just a memory, no longer just a piece of the past. It was the beginning of something greater, a guide, a key, a bridge to the future. That night the stars shone clear above the colony. The mother stood at the window, her daughter asleep in her arms. She whispered to the sky, her voice soft but steady. "If you're alive, we are coming." The toy pulsed, gently as if answering her. The mechanic stood outside, gazing up at the same stars. He whispered to himself, "Whatever waits out there, we'll face it together." But far in the distance, beyond the colony's edge, shadows moved. Unseen ships drifted in the void. Signals whispered through the dark. Others had caught the trace of the toy's awakening, and they too now searched for what it carried. The truth was no longer hidden. The journey was no longer safe, yet inside that small home, one family was no longer broken. The mother, the daughter, and the stranger who chose to help them were bound together by a promise. A broken toy had become a beacon, and from this night forward, nothing would ever be the same. The child's laughter echoed in her sleep. The mother's tears dried into a quiet strength. The mechanic's gaze stayed firm, his heart heavy with memories of his own. And above them all, the stars waited, vast and endless. The path had been set, the truth revealed, and the journey had only just begun.